Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping right in to dismantle a pervasive financial myth that is, quite frankly, secretly costing hardworking people a lot of money. It's a trap, and it disguises itself as savvy financial advice. So it's about time we put it to rest by looking at the actual, literal mechanics of how our money is taxed.
Let me ask you a direct question. Have you ever hesitated to accept more income? Have you ever looked at a potential promotion or maybe an extra weekend overtime shift and thought twice about taking it? Not because you didn't have the time or energy, but because you were genuinely worried about what it would do to your taxes?
If you have, you're absolutely not alone in that. In fact, you've probably had this highly relatable scenario play out right in front of you. A well-meaning coworker leans in and gives you this exact piece of secondhand advice. Don't take it, it'll push you into a higher bracket and you'll actually lose money. It sounds incredibly authoritative, right? It sounds like they know a secret about the system that you don't.
Well, you've probably heard this, but here is the unvarnished truth. It is completely wrong. It's mathematically false. And throughout this explainer, we're going to tear down this belief step by step so you never fall victim to it again. Earning more money does not cause you to take home less overall because of a tax bracket change. Period.
Section 1. How progressive taxes actually work.
Okay, let's dive into this. The root of this whole myth comes from a fundamental misunderstanding of the mechanics at play. Think of the progressive tax system like a series of buckets. Imagine your income isn't just one big pool of water. Instead, it's poured into a series of buckets lined up in a row. Step 1, your first dollars earned fill up the very first bucket. Every single dollar in that first bucket is taxed at a low specific rate. Step 2, once that first bucket is completely full to the brim, any additional dollars you earn, the overflow, spill into the next bucket. Step 3, the slightly higher tax rate of that second bucket only applies to the overflow dollars sitting inside it. It doesn't go back and retroactively change the tax rate of the water in the first bucket. Your entire income isn't suddenly taxed at a higher rate just because you splashed a few drops into a new bucket. Only the dollars earned within each specific bracket are taxed at that bracket's rate.
Let's make this concrete with a real-world, non-round salary jump to demonstrate exactly how this math applies. Imagine you're earning exactly $47,150. You get offered a raise, and your new salary will be $52,000. This is a bump of $4,850. And right on cue, your coworker whispers in your ear that this raise will push you over a threshold and ruin your paycheck.
Let's actually run the numbers. Your base salary of $47,150, that stays exactly where it was, safely in its original buckets, being taxed at the exact same standard rate it always was. Nothing changes for that money. Now think about your new raise, that $4,850 difference. That specific amount, and literally only that amount, spills into the new, higher tax bracket bucket. So yes, a higher percentage of tax is taken out of the $4,850, but even after that higher tax is applied to the overflow, you're still left with a solid chunk of new, actual extra money. The extra tax is only owed on the difference, meaning you, the worker, still keep the vast majority of your raise. At the end of the day, you take home more money overall.
Section 2. Why the myth persists.
So, if the math is this straightforward, why are we even having this conversation? I want to validate your potential confusion here because this myth survives for some very specific, logical-sounding reasons despite being mathematically false. The core technical confusion happens when people mistakenly swap their marginal rate with their effective rate. Your marginal rate is the tax rate applied to the very last dollar you earned, basically the highest bucket you spilled into. Your effective rate, on the other hand, is the actual average tax you pay across your entire total income, blending all those different buckets together. The myth happens when people look at their new, higher marginal rate and falsely assume, well actually, they just assume it automatically becomes their new effective rate for everything. It doesn't.
But, it's not just terminology tripping us up. Let's look at the other major culprits feeding the rumor mill. First up, confusing paycheck withholding algorithms. When you get a sudden spike in pay, like working a massive overtime shift, payroll software sometimes just panics. It temporarily assumes you're going to be making that huge amount every single pay period for the rest of the year, so it overwithholds taxes for that one check. This leads directly to our next point, that first paycheck can genuinely feel like a pay cut because the algorithm overcorrected. But remember, that's just a temporary withholding issue, not your actual final tax bill. It all balances out when you file your return. Unfortunately, by the time it balances out, the damage is done, leading to echo chambers of bad workplace advice. One person sees a weirdly small overtime check, misunderstands why, and tells everyone in the break room to never work overtime again. And the myth just spreads like wildfire.
Section 3. The cost of saying no.
We really need to look at the damage this bad advice does, because saying no to money has compounding consequences. Let's look at two different people.
Person A ignored the break room gossip and took the raise. Over 5 years, their cumulative take-home pay is significantly higher. But more importantly, look at what happens over a 10-year span for retirement growth. Person A was able to invest a portion of that raise, compound interest takes hold, and their net worth just accelerates. Then you have Person B. They declined the raise purely out of bracket fear. Sure, they protected themselves from a slightly higher marginal tax rate on a few dollars, but they lost out on thousands in actual take-home pay over 5 years, and they severely handicapped their retirement growth over a decade. Financial fear literally cost them their future wealth.
Section 4. The real exceptions.
Now, to maintain our documentary credibility here, we do have to address the very real but very rare exceptions. Are there ever times when earning more money actually hurts you financially? Yes. These exceptions are called income-based subsidy cliffs. A subsidy cliff is a specific income threshold where earning just one more dollar completely disqualifies you from a major tax credit or government subsidy. For example, if a certain childcare subsidy completely vanishes the second you earn $50,001, then taking a raise that pushes you over that exact line might actually reduce your net benefit, because you lose a massive flat-rate subsidy all at once. However, there is an absolutely crucial distinction you need to remember. Subsidy cliffs are not marginal tax brackets. While these cliffs are real, specific situations where extra income can reduce your overall net benefit, they have absolutely nothing to do with the marginal tax bracket myth we've been discussing. The marginal tax system smoothly transitions your taxes bucket by bucket. Subsidy cliffs are an entirely different mechanism, so definitely do not confuse the two.
Section 5. Calculate the actual impact.
So, now that you understand the mechanics of the buckets, the real difference between marginal and effective rates, and the true cost of bad workplace advice, what should you do with this newfound understanding? The takeaway is incredibly straightforward. Never turn down more income because of bracket fears. If you're offered a promotion, a raise, or a profitable overtime shift, take it. Always calculate the actual marginal impact rather than blindly letting a workplace myth dictate your paycheck. Run the numbers, see how much of the new money falls into the higher bucket, and recognize that you will absolutely be taking home more money at the end of the day. Don't let a temporary withholding glitch or a well-meaning but misinformed coworker hold back your earning potential. I want to wrap up this explainer by leaving you with a provocative question to really think about. How much has financial fear cost your future self? If you've been operating under the marginal tax rate myth, what opportunities have you let slip by? It's time to rely on the math instead of the myths moving forward. Thank you for joining me, and I hope this clears up your next paycheck.